Oh hey, you're hiding over there, you have a guest. The shoulders of a man watching from the shadows flinched. Hello, I am here to see Kaj, is he here? The man wasn't sure what to do, and his shoulders flinched again at the sound of more footsteps. It's fine, leave us. The newly arrived man dispatched the hesitant one with just that and showed himself. He was very thin, his eyes were sunken, and he had so little color in his face it was questionable whether he was even alive. Ashen was the perfect word to describe it. Not a single hair could be spotted on his head. In fact, he had neither eyebrows nor lashes. There was so little evidence of anything hair-like on his body that one began to wonder if he had any at all. With those looks, it was impossible to guess his age, but since his skin didn't have wrinkles, he must not have been too terribly old. He wore a deep, bloody red robe and a necklace that was a string of small animal skulls. His skin and bones arms ended in hands with yellowed nails that gripped a black staff. He looked more like an undead monster than a human. Hello, Kaj. The man frowned at the woman's light-hearted salute. Stop using that bastardized greeting. It's an insult to the proud name of Zuranorn. Zuranorn was an evil secret society. It was made up of casters who always had their powerful leader in mind. They kept death close. They had caused more than a few tragedies. The countries in the area considered them an enemy. Her response showed no sign that she would change. This caused the creases in the man's face to deepen. And what reason could you possibly have for being here? You know I am pouring energy into the jewel of death in this place. If you came to make trouble, I'll take the liberty of dealing with you as I see fit. The man squinted, and power began to build up in his staff. Or, Kaj, don't be that way. I even brought you a present. The woman grinned and dug around under her cape. There was some jangling. Eventually she found what she was looking for and gleefully pulled it out. It was a circlet. Innumerable tiny gems were delicately attached to metal thread as thin as spider silk. This made it look like a spiderweb covered in water droplets. A large black crystal was set in its center, about where the wearer's forehead would be. That the man's eyes opened wide. He'd seen one once from a distance, so there was no way he would mistake it. The sign of a shrine princess, a crown of wisdom, one of the slain theocracy's greatest treasures. Yup, a cute little girl was wearing this, but it wasn't her style, so I did her a favor and stole it. And then what a surprise, she went crazy, she was pooping and peeing all over the place. The woman cackled. She was formerly with the Black Scripture, so there was no way she didn't know what would happen when she removed the crown of wisdom from its wearer, one of the shrine princesses, who play key roles in the magic ceremonies the slain theocracy performs. When it was time for a new princess to be crowned, the Black Scripture was responsible for sending the one driven insane by the removal of her crown to join the gods. I mean, there was nothing I could do. There's no other way to take it. It's the guy who made them fault. I can't believe he got away with that. There was no safe way to remove a crown of wisdom. The only option was to destroy it. But a crown of wisdom transformed a human being into a font of super high-tier magic by sealing off their sense of self. It would be a waste to destroy such a sacred treasure. And so, crazy people, HMPH, I can't believe you betrayed the Black Scripture to steal such a piece of junk. If you were going to do that, you could have at least stolen one of the sacred treasures left by the 6 gods. Junk, that's a bit harsh. She puffed up her cheeks to pout in a contrived way, and the man sneered at her. Oh, I am pretty sure it's junk. The girls who can use that thing are rare. You can't even begin to look for someone unless you raid a nation, like the slain theocracy. The slain theocracy was the only country in the area with a registry of inhabitants. That's how they were able to find the ones who could use the crowns, the sacrifices. Without that kind of system, it would be incredibly difficult to search for them, even with the power of Zuranorn. Plus, how am I supposed to steal a sacred treasure? The Black Scripture's strongest monster, with beyond otherworldly powers, the atavistic son of a bitch, said to have blood of the gods in him, is guarding them. That demigod, are they really that strong? I've only ever heard of them from you. Oh man, they ray on a whole other level, but I guess you wouldn't know because the info is so locked down. Being brainwashed into spilling the beans would mean big trouble too. I wish there were more info, but they say if word got out, the whole theocracy would get swept up in a war with the remaining true dragon lords and get wiped off the map. I highly doubt that. The woman's tone suddenly changed. Yes, I guess you would if you hadn't seen his power. Anyhow, to get back to my point, Karjit Dale Baduntal, we ray both one of the 12 leaders, let us work together. Oh, is this a peek at the true you, one of the Quinches, but leave out the Dale. I don't use that name anymore, only if you cut out the one of the Quinches stuff. Just call me Clementine. Clementine then, what's this about working together? There's someone in this city with a wonderful talent, right? I bet he could use this item. I've heard the rumors, but surely you can kidnap a single person on your own. Well, yes, but while I am at it, I want to cause a big commotion. To escape during the confusion, I see, so I thought, what if I said I'd help out with your ritual? Not a bad offer, right? Karjit's eyes narrowed and a superbly evil smile spread across his face. Splendid, Clementine. In that case, we can perform the ritual of death sooner than planned. I'll do it. You have my full cooperation. There were two main routes carriages could take heading from Rantal toward the village of Khan to the northeast. They could go north and then follow the forest to the east, or they could start off going east and change course to head north. This time, the group chose the former. Going along the forest made the monster encounter rate slightly higher, so it was technically the wrong choice for an escort job. But the reason they did it was the monster hunting work Aints originally agreed to take on with Peter and his crew. There was the risk of chasing two hares and catching neither, but everyone felt secure in knowing that the powerful Momon and Nabe were there. So they chose that route. The lightning Aints had Narbral cast once they were outside the city as proof she could use tier 3 magic had surely helped put them at ease. In any case, they were going deep into the forest. They were only going out to the plains, so they wouldn't run into any terribly powerful monsters. Since they would be more than able to deal with them, they decided it would be a good chance to verify each team's abilities in actual combat. They left Rantal when the sun was a bit past its peak. Far in the distance, they could see a virgin forest. It was so dense it looked like a dark green lump. The thick trees stood straight up. Their magnificent branches spread out and blocked the sun. Visibility inside the forest was poor. It almost felt as though one were being swallowed up by the darkness. The gaps between trees inspired terrible uneasiness. They seemed almost like gaping maws waiting for prey. The party arranged themselves with the cart in the center. Enfira was the driver, naturally. Lukrut the ranger led the way. Peter the warrior was on the left flank. Druid Dine and Caster Ninja took the right. Aints and Narbral brought up the rear. They hadn't been terribly cautious, partly because visibility was good. But now, for the first time, Peter spoke in a slightly harder tone. Momon, we're entering a bit of a dangerous area. I don't think there will be any monsters we can handle, but be on your guard just in case. Understood. As he nodded, Aints suddenly thought of something. In a game, the monsters a player could encounter in a specific area were set, but that wouldn't necessarily hold true in real life. God only knows what kind of tricky enemies we'll be up against. Aints was confident in his own strength after the battle at Khan. This confidence was based on the information they were able to get from the Sunlit Scripture members they caught, but that was confidence as a caster. At the present moment, Aints could hardly cast any spells because he was wearing a suit of armor. With his specialty removed, would he be able to perform as the vanguard everyone was counting on? Also, since this was an escort job, it wasn't simply a matter of defeating monsters. He had to add keeping Enfira alive to the victory conditions. Thinking about all of that made him a little anxious. If push came to shove, he would ditch the armor and handle the situation with magic. But then he would either have to kill his party or use memory manipulation on them. He didn't want that to happen. It would be a pain. Aints moved his head to look over at Narbral. She noticed him and nodded once. They had planned so that she would cast spells higher than tier 3 up to tier 5 if it became necessary. Hopefully that would take care of things. If it didn't, then Aints would take off his armor and get just a little bit serious. Lukrut seemed to have misunderstood something about their eye contact, even though Aints was still wearing his close helmet, and he called out to them in his jokey way. We're fine, you don't need to worry so much. As long as we don't get ambushed, nothing bad will happen. And as long as I am our eyes and ears, that is no problem. Right, Nabe? Aren't I amazing? He pulled a gallant face and Narbral laughed derisively. May I have permission to beat that mosquito to pulp, Mr. Momon? That is cold, but I'll take it. Everyone looked annoyed as he stuck his thumb up, but no one seemed to think anything of Nabe speaking so severely. Luckily, they seemed to have interpreted it as her looking down on Lukrut, not calling the entire human race lower life forms. Aints dismissed her entreaty. He felt like he had an ache in his non-existent stomach. You Ray, traveling with humans, be a tiny bit more discreet. Enfira must have understood his body language differently. He jumped in to say, we Ray all right. Actually, from here to around Khan is the territory of the mighty magical beast known as the Wise King of the Forest. So it is very rare for other monsters to show up. The Wise King of the Forest, Aints recalled what he found out in Khan. The Wise King of the Forest was supposedly a magical beast who possessed a terrible amount of power. He could even cast spells. He lived so deep in the forest that there were next to no eyewitness accounts, but tales of his existence had been passed down since long, long ago. One account said he was a silver, four-legged beast with the tail of a snake who had lived for hundreds of years. I'd like to meet this guy. That story is hard to swallow, but if he is really that old, he might have a crazy amount of wisdom. He is called the Wise King of the Forest. Capturing him should help strengthen Nazarik's position. Aints vaguely remembered what the magical beast looked like. The Wise King of the Forest, he was pretty sure there was an extinct animal called something like that. It looked a little like a monkey, oh right, an orangutan, a person or a wise man who lived in the woods, with a tail like a snake. He thought there was a monster like that. Aints thought there had been something like that in Yggdrasil. Then he realized what it was. A chimera. He was pretty sure that chimera had the face of a monkey, the body of a badger, the limbs of a tiger, and the tail of a snake. He didn't know for sure that this would be the same monster as the Yggdrasil chimera, but if it was anything like those angel summons, there was a good chance. As Aints was recalling everything he knew about Yggdrasil's chimera, Lukrut was casually talking to Nabril again. Okay, I have to do a flawless job so that lovely Nabe will like me more. Nabril clicked her tongue. It seemed to contain all the hatred from the bottom of her heart. Lukrut appeared shocked, but no one moved to console him. They had started considering the pair's back and forth a comedy act. Chatting like that now and then, the party continued on with the scorching sun at their backs. As they tramped through the grass, some of the juices from the crushed plants stuck to their leather boots, giving off a green smell. Watching everyone mop their sweat, Aints was thankful for his undead body. It had no trouble with the sun beating down and didn't tire out even while wearing heavy armor. Lukrut continued to break the silence with his perky remarks. You guys don't have to be on the lookout so much. I got my eyes open. I mean, check out Nabe, she has totally relaxed because she believes in me, not you. It's because of Mr. Momon. Creases appeared in her brow. Sensing she'd explode and do something outrageous in another second or two, Aints laid a hand on her shoulder. Her expression softened immediately. Seeing that, Lukrut had a question for them. Hey, are you sure you two aren't actually lovers? Lovers? What are you talking about? He has Mistress Albedo, you Aints blurted. Watch your mouth, Nabe. Nabril's eyes popped wide open, and she slapped her hands over her mouth. Aints cleared his throat and spoke in a cold voice. Lukrut, could I ask you to please not inquire any further? Oh, sorry about that, I was just joking. So you Ray with someone already, huh? Lukrut didn't seem very sorry as he bobbed his head, but Aints wasn't so mad at him. This time Nabril had been too careless. He wondered if he'd brought the wrong person, but he was going nuts in his head because there wasn't anyone else for him to mobilize. In Aints' gown, all the members were grotesques. Almost all the NPCs they created were also grotesques, so there was almost no one who could infiltrate a human city. Nabril looked human, even though it was a false appearance. Aints hadn't considered her personality when he chose her. Looking back, Lupus Regina Beta, another member of the Pleiades, might have been more suitable, but it was too late now. Nabril looked pale after her error, so Aints patted her back a few times to comfort her. A great boss forgives his subordinates their first mistake. He would be less forgiving if it happened again. She became too depressed and listless. It could impinge on her performance, and that would only make things worse. After all, she had only said Albedo's name. It probably wasn't even necessary to manipulate anyone's memories. Lukrut, cut the chatter and focus on keeping watch. Yes, sir. Momon, I apologize for my friend's behavior. He knows he shouldn't be asking personal questions. It's okay. As long as it doesn't happen again, I am fine overlooking it this time. Both of them looked at Lucrat's back at the same time. They were discouraged when he said, now Nabe hates me. Her affection for me is negative. That idiot I'll give him a good talking to later, and we'll pretend we never heard that earlier detail. Well, okay, thanks. And then if Lucrat's on watch, I'd like to leave it to him and take the opportunity to talk a bit. Sure, go ahead. We'll make him work to offset the trouble he caused. Peter smiled and Aints moved to walk alongside Ninya and Dine. Dine dropped back to line up with Narbarrel. I'd like to ask you a few things about magic, Ninya said. That was fine, so Aints asked a question. Enfira looked on, seeming to have taken an interest in their conversation. People being manipulated with charm or dominate spells end up giving up all the intelligence they have. But is there a spell that, as a counter to that, would cause someone to die if they were asked the same question multiple times under certain circumstances? I've never heard of a spell like that. Aints moved his head to look at Enfira through his helmet. Me neither. You might be able to do a delayed cast using magic modification buffs. I see that wasn't the answer he'd been hoping for. He was no closer to solving the issue of how to use the remaining sunlit scripture prisoners. There weren't very many survivors left. Using them up for nothing would be a pity. Aints had dissected a few of them live to see if they had some magic medical device that would make them disappear when they died. But it had been a pretty big waste. If things were going to end up like that, he should have tried to get information out of them once he realized they would die. He missed 3 chances per captive to get information, but Nigun was the biggest waste. Using him first had been a mistake. He was the man with the most intelligence among them, and he'd been finished off on such a simple question. Well, it hadn't been all for nothing. That failure led to the understanding that he wouldn't be able to deal with everything in this world using the knowledge he'd cultivated in Yggdrasil. It was better to consider things optimistically. He had learned a lot. While Aints was thinking absent-mindedly about those things, Ninya continued his answer. Still, I only know a fraction of all the spells that exist. In countries that cultivate casters on a national level, it's possible they've created that sort of spell. For instance, the Slain Theocracy trains priests casters who use faith magic, and the Baharuth Empire has an academy for arcaners, sorcerers, wizards, and other magical classes. I wouldn't be surprised if the Arglan Council State had some kind of magic using the dragon's wisdom. I see, so you wouldn't be surprised if it existed. According to the information he'd gathered so far, the Arglan Council State was a subhuman nation governed by a group of councillors. Given the Slain Theocracy's principle of human superiority, the 2 nations were likely to conflict. The council state was especially known for its 5 dragon councillors. They were said to possess great power. Aints was interested in that country, but he wasn't quite on his feet yet. He couldn't get there at the moment, especially given the sharp drop in Nazarik's war potential. Okay then, there's something else I'd like to ask. Aints felt very satisfied as he asked Ninya his other questions. The other members of the Swords of Darkness only looked at him to note that Aints was at it again. He'd gotten Ninya, Peter, and the others to tell him so much that it had become a routine. He learned about a myriad of topics such as magic, martial arts, adventurers, and nearby countries. He had to be careful about what he asked, but everything he heard was extremely useful. He was confident that his knowledge about the world had increased a great deal, but it still wasn't enough. Every time he learned something, the things he needed to know multiplied. That was especially the case with magic. He was surprised by how different things were in a world based on magic. One thing that was especially affected was the level of civilization. It appeared to be something like the Middle Ages. In fact, it was probably closer to pre-modern or, in some cases, nearly modern. Magic supported this level of technology. Once Aints realized that, he gave up thinking too hard about the progress of technology. For someone who had lived in a world with scientific technology, it was impossible to think too deeply about this world with its entirely different system. They even had magic to produce spices like salt and sugar. They also had magic to return nutritive value to the soil, avoiding damage by replanting the same crops over and over. On top of that, he wasn't sure if it was true or false, but he heard that the ocean wasn't too salty. That was how far this world departed from Aints' common sense. How long had he been cautiously satisfying his curiosity when something moved, Luckrat announced abruptly, with palpable tension in his voice.